All information given in this episode is for educational purposes and should not be tried prior to consulting a licensed physician and or certified state or accrediting bodies. We encourage all listeners to research, talk, and make all inquiries to all of the important professionals and governing bodies before acting on any information heard on the De La Fit podcast. Any action taken by any listener is done by and under their own omission and action, whether conscious to the results positive or not.
To the De La Fit podcasts, 360 degrees of holistic fitness and health, all in one podcast.
Salutations and proclamations. It is I, it is you, it is us, it is we. Together we make up the digital family that is the De La Fit podcast. I'm your host, Philly's #1 son, aka the Body Alchemist, Sun Moon Bay, bringing you another podcast excursion. Welcome one, welcome all. It is the 4th season and the 43rd episode of the De La Fit podcast, and this is going to be one of our most dynamic episodes. We are going to be talking about a very debated complex topic, which is our children and vaccinations. Should we vaccinate? Should we not vaccinate? Before we get into it, I am going to briefly explain why we are having this conversation, because I have been asked by people, they're like, well, why do you pick certain topics when you're supposed to be a fitness or health-based program? So, the 360 degrees of holistic fitness and health reigns supreme as the mantra of this show. It is my belief more now than ever that just because you are in the gym does not mean you are totally fit. And it's not just because you're ingesting a lot of protein or enough protein that makes you fit. It's what you're doing outside the gym. It's what you're doing in your spiritual life. It's what you're doing in your mental health. It's what you're doing in your financial health. When any of these complex areas are out of kilter, out of whack, your health is out of whack. You need those aspects of your life within that 360 degrees, that circle, to be in perfect balance and alignment in order to function as we need to on this plane of manifestation. So, to answer the question and to bring in the topic that we are discussing today, if our families are not healthy, then surely we cannot be healthy. So, I'm going to give some quick background as to why I'm having this conversation. This started based on a conversation I had with a very close friend of mine, and he was talking about how he felt about vaccinations dealing with his daughter's school, his daughter being my goddaughter, so this is a very close subject to my heart. And as he was talking about it, I had my own feelings about vaccinations, which I'll weigh in later at the end of the show. But I thought about this. I said, man, I should do a show about this. This should be a topic. And I asked some of the listeners, and some of the listeners said, yeah, you should do that topic. And I was like, that's a good idea. So I started researching. And as I researched it, at first I was going to do a debate, the classic debate, holistic versus conventional medicine and all that. And as I did more research, I saw that this is a constant debate. And you know what, everybody out there that's listening, as I started researching, the first thing that hit me is that we are hit with enough debates. We are debated up the wazoo. We have debates about equality out there. We have debates about politics. We have debates about guns. We have debates upon if we should be debating and if that should be debated. You know what? The bullshit stops. This is why today we are not having a debate. The debate will lie within you, the listener, and you alone. Today, we are going to be presenting opinions from educated professionals and facts that you yourself can Google and look up. I would preface that you research, and talk to physicians and licensed and certified holistic counselors. Think before you act. And before you act, think again. With that being said, I would like to introduce our guests. Our first guest will be Miss Orisha Oshun, who is a holistic counselor in the Florida area. She also goes by the name I Am Surviving Vegan, and she has been successfully helping people with information in regards to plant-based lifestyles, as well as how to go about protecting and watching over their children when making the decision to not vaccinate. We are also going to be joined later in the podcast by Dr. Cass, an adolescent medical physician out in the Las Vegas area. Dr. Cass will bring the benefit of her experience of working with children and teens, what she has seen dealing with vaccinations, questions to ask doctors. She will be answering a lot of the popular questions that many of you have asked, and she will be breaking down why she thinks it is important to vaccinate your child. With all that being said, let's get into the podcast. You know where you are. You're at home with us. So pull up your favorite chair, kick up your feet. You're home with the De La Fit Podcast. Hey, De La Fit Podcast listeners. Want to share your opinions, give feedback, or tell me what you're thinking? Send me a voice message. Voice messages are an easy way for you to send me audio that might end up in a future episode of the De La Fit Podcast. They're the latest feature from Anchor, the platform I use to make this podcast. Here are some of the things I'd like to hear from you. Questions you may have for me, future topics, and or types of guests you would like us to reach out to. You can send me a voice message right now from wherever you're listening. Just tap the link in my show notes. I can't wait to hear from you. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the De La Fit Podcast. I have an excellent guest here. You all know what the topic is today. We're going to be talking about pro-vaccination versus anti-vaccination. And you know me. I always like to go to the people who have the knowledge themselves, the people who can talk about the information themselves. All right. So I've been joined by a wonderful individual, a young woman who many of you all can find on Instagram. She's doing a lot of positive work. She goes by the name Surviving Vegan. And I've seen a lot of her posts. I've seen a lot of information she's doing. She's constantly working. And she's going to be here talking with us about anti-vaccinations, why you don't necessarily need it, and what the things that you should think about. We have holistic counselor Orisha Oshun. Are you there, Orisha?
Yes, I'm here. So happy to be on this morning.
Excellent. We're glad to have you. I'm very, very excited about this because this is a topic that seems to be it's always been going on. It continues to go on, but it feels like within recent months and days, it started to pick up again. You know, with a lot of the information that's coming out, as well as a lot of the different types of viruses that seem to be picking up strength. So, before we get into the beginning conversation of this, which we will, I want to ask you a little bit about yourself. I want to ask you, where did you start your fitness journey? How did you get into this, I'll say this purpose. I don't want to say a line of work. How did you start this purpose?
Well, this path chose me. I did not choose it. I never thought that I would be vegan. Never thought that I would be doing anything when it came to health. I was just pretty much doing my thing and the average black girl, worried about going clubbing and drinking and having fun in my early 20s. And after I started to have children, obviously a lot of people that have mothers out there, they become more aware of, children just have this way of making you become more aware of yourself, your goals, and more aware of what you actually want out of life. So after the birth of my second son in 2014, I became very aware of the world and what's actually going on. And actually the first step was becoming more aware of politics and a lot of the corruption throughout history with politics and the development of the country. And then that led me to finding out more about African history. And as I researched African history, I started with like the Khan tribe, I started with Yoruba, I started with Voodoo and all those African spiritual systems. And I had a revelation, if you will, and I also started with Brother Tariq Nasheed's documentaries as well. I had a kind of revelation of being stuck in a box, and I realized through learning these sciences that food, in the way that your body reacts to the things that you put inside your body, directly contributes to my path of ascension. So I was all about finding my path, finding my purpose. So I started meditation in 2015-16, and I really went into meditation to help remove blockages in my mind. And then it was revealed to me through my higher self that I should focus on eating healthier so that I can hear messages from the divine. So that's what started it. Then I cut out all fast food, I cut out all meats, and the last thing I cut out was fish. Transitioned out my whole family, including the children and my fiance. And in 2017, I really started doing heavy meditation on revealing my purpose. And in 2017, November, I used to always cook food, and like everyone does on social media, I started sharing it. And one post that I did in 2017 went viral. It was supposed to be vegan oxtails, and I got over 1 million hits on it. And I said, internally, I knew that this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing, sharing my journey. So that's what started my business. That's what actually started me doing clinical trials on people, virtual trials where I would do weight loss, help people find alternative remedies for high blood pressure medication, diabetes medication, obesity. Pretty much started with that. And I did over, I think, 100 women and men. And within 10 days, I helped those 100 women and men lose over 1,000 pounds in less than 10 days. I helped women drop their blood pressure by 30 points in 10 days. And this was just me just trying it out. Like, I didn't charge them or anything. I was like, who's willing to do it? I'm willing to help you out. Of course, I said, you have to at least be healthy and get approval from your doctor. And when I saw that moment, I knew that this is what I want to do with my life. And I became a holistic counselor certified through Dr. Laila Africa, who is an African holistic doctor out of Indianapolis. And I went through his program, and it was very eye-opening in the sense of how the body, mind, and spirit is connected. So that's kind of the journey I took to get to this point and where I am today. And I'm grateful because I never would have thought that this would be my purpose and what I was designed to do when I was born. So that was pretty much that.
So I got to ask you a question. What was it like for, maybe not so much, well, your family? Was there a transitional period to have your children ever eaten any meat byproducts, or was it something that took place while you were changing?
Okay. So I had 2 children at the time when I decided to go vegan. My daughter was 3 at the time. She had McDonald's. She'd had chicken nuggets. She still remembers it to this day. My son was 1.5. He was just coming off of formula milk. But I don't remember. I don't think he had like chicken because he was so young. He might have had like maybe like a piece of someone's chicken, but he never was exposed to like a full meal because he was still young. And my third child that I have now, I did a whole holistic pregnancy with her. I was vegan. I was pregnant with her when I decided to go vegan. So she's been vegan since the fetus in the womb, and she's never had animal products. And I see a distinct difference between all 3 of them, being at the levels of how they react to food and how their chemical sensitivity is in their body. It was very hard to transition my oldest daughter because she did not understand. I had to have many days where I had to explain to her why we're transitioning, not just for health, but also for your mental capability. And I did a holistic transition. So I like to tell my clients, including, it's not just about health. We have to balance ourselves mentally and spiritually. So we do a lot of family yoga. And they saw all these things that she's 7 now. And now she kind of understands that how these things work together. With my son, no problem. With my youngest daughter, no problem, because they weren't used to it yet.
Right.
But with her, when she would go to school and she would see other people eating other things, she used to be sad, when she was in kindergarten and first grade. Now she's in first grade. But she understands because I had to explain to her. I don't keep anything from her. I show her how food contributes to diabetes. We have family members that have diabetes. We have family members that have high blood pressure. So she understands what it is. And one time, we had this funny incident. I took her I was actually taking some other family members to a water park. And they insisted on going to McDonald's. And it was so against me, but I don't like to force people to do anything. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, we can go to McDonald's. My daughter cried, please, now at least have a hash brown. Please, Mommy, please. So I let her, I said, okay, I'm going to compromise with you, but if you detox tomorrow, I'll let you have a hash brown. She said, yes, I'm going to detox. Just let me have a hash brown. So I let her go inside, and she ordered her hash brown. When we got in the car, the hash brown had mold inside of it.
Oh, wow.
And I was so mad. And since that time, she understood, like, those lessons helped her to understand how it's important it is for you to be in control of your food and what you put in your body. Because I said, you see, now we bought this and we trusted them with our health, and look what happened.
Right.
And then when I went inside, the manager wasn't even apologetic. The assistant manager wasn't apologetic either. So she had that experience with me, and I'm grateful that I didn't just say, no, sit down, you're not getting it, because it showed her it was a learning experience. So with her, we still battle back and forth. I ask her all the time if she's going to be vegan when she grows up. She's like, I don't know, maybe not. So I hope that she will be, but with my other two children, there's no problem. Like, they have no problem going into the public. They'll let people know. That looks like chicken. I don't think I can have that. To adults that will try to, like, encourage them. You want to try a little piece? They're like, no, I don't think so. It looks like meat, and I can't have that. So with my other two youngest children, being that they transitioned very young, no problems with my youngest daughter. It was a little problem getting her off the McDonald's. It's actually the aesthetics of getting a Happy Meal and seeing a toy and things like that.
Right.
And I had to just help her to understand, the importance of it. And hopefully she stays vegan as she goes into adulthood. So we'll see.
That's great right there. So this leads me into my next question. Why do you think it's better for children not to have vaccinations?
Right. So doing my extensive research on vaccination, independent research on vaccination, and my biggest issue is not with the point that we need to, protect ourselves against viral diseases or bacteria. My problem is what the methods that they're using, unethical methods that they're using to create these vaccinations, okay? Vaccinations are, we know that in science through clinical studies is how we kind of can prove a fact, but in essence, vaccinations are still a hypothesis. Obviously, it can work and it cannot work in some cases. So I made a decision, in my opinion, that I am the protector of my children ultimately, and I have their best interest at heart. My son, although he was vegan, after, I decided to transition, he never really ate meat, but he still got vaccinations, and he had a reaction to the vaccinations, which was eczema, and he developed asthma at a young age. So that is what started my research. And as I continued to research, I found that when I read the ingredients, I was not happy when I figured out what was actually in them. And it's not hidden information. You can go on the CDC website, Center for Disease Control, and they list all vaccinations with the ingredients. And some of the ingredients were very disturbing to me as a parent to know that I would never give my child this. So to allow someone that seems to have my child's best interest, but they're interested in giving them things like bovine extract, which comes from the blood of baby calves, putting kidney cells from monkeys into vaccines. And some people will argue, it's used to grow the vaccine, but it still contains contaminants from these organisms into the vaccines, and that's what they put on the website as well. Also they have formaldehyde, as well as one of the other big ones that you can either go on the CDC's website and go on the actual the health department's website. There's a hazardous substance fact sheet, and this is actually in the vaccines called formaldehyde, and that is a poisonous substance that they use to clean electrical products for airplanes. They use it to create certain metals and things like that. And I thought that this is not something that I want to give to my children. And then I started to look into the death rate. Obviously, not everyone dies from having vaccines, but it depends on the person. Right. It depends on their immunity. It depends on the person, what type of reaction they will have. And as I started to look into cases of young children that are 6 weeks or 8 weeks and they have developed severe medical disabilities because of the vaccinations, or mental disabilities, or actually had fatalities due to this, I just felt that, yeah, we can look at the ratio of who dies and who doesn't, but do I want to put my children in harm's way in hopes that they can get a vaccine that will probably most likely prevent them from disease? But it's not proven fact that if I give them this, they will never contract the disease because I made this measure. And in my mind, that didn't make sense for me, for my family. And that's what made me make that choice for my family, my children.
Now, I have a quick question. What was it that you said it's something that they use to clean airplanes again? What was that called? Because I heard it, but I was trying to look it up at the same time. What was that called again?
Okay, it's called glutaraldehyde. It's spelled GLUTARALDHYDE.
All right.
Yeah, you can even pull up the fact sheet. It is a glass. This is actually what the New Jersey Health Department has it listed as. I have their form up right now. It says glutaraldehyde is a colorless glass-like crystal that is usually 2 to 50% water solution. It is used for cold sterilization of dental and medical equipment and as a preservative, biocide, hardener, and tanning agent. That's the description that they actually have. But I've seen other descriptions where it is used as a cleaning agent to sterilize airplane parts, to sterilize medical equipment, as they said in this. And it even has on here what type of things can happen if it comes in contact with your skin, either in a liquid or a vapor. It can irritate, burn the eyes, irritate the skin, irritate the digestive system, is what my further research saw. And I was just like, I don't think this is what I want to do.
Right.
So,
and this
but
I'm sorry, and you say, and this is listed in, you say we can find this in the CDC as one of the ingredients that's in some of the vaccines that they put?
Right, okay. So, exactly. So even if you just Google vaccine ingredients, one of the lists that will come up on Google is a CDC fact sheet. And so the fact sheet just has like the main harmful ingredients that can possibly cause issues with children or adults. And then you can go into it, you click I can't remember the exact link, but it's on the page. They have a full list of all the vaccines and all the ingredients.
Okay.
So if you go to the fact sheet, on that fact sheet is a link of all their vaccines and all the ingredients.
Okay.
And, you know, the biggest ones that stuck out to me was using the lines of monkey kidney cells or using that DNA information. Just really kind of was very unethical to me. And then to also know that they use sometimes to test them, they use aborted fetus tissue as well. That just doesn't align with what I believe should be done spiritually to do this to animals, to use animals in testing of this way, to use nature in this way. Kind of seems like this type of mad scientist type of mentality, in my opinion.
Okay. So I have a question to ask you. What you've listed some of the information as far as what are some of the ingredients that are potentially dangerous. Let's talk a little bit about what are some of the side effects that you have studied that comes from this. I think you talked a little bit about it, but give some of the listeners out there a little a list of the side effects and maybe where they can find this information as well.
Okay, sure. So there was I believe it's a coalition, but there is a coalition called the Vaccine Injury, and I believe it's Vaccine Injury Correlation. But if you look up on Google Vaccine Injury Table, there will be a website that comes up that helps families, the children to present their case before Supreme Court. And help them to either win. Usually it's a money settlement if they deem that the case was directly linked to vaccine injury. So they have a whole coalition that's dedicated to providing financial money to people that have been injured by vaccines that can prove it. And on that website, they have the whole vaccine list of vaccines as well as the injury that can be associated with it. So it's actually called the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act, which was implemented in 1966.
Okay.
All right, so that's the actual name, or if you want to Google it. And they have a list of all the vaccines. So most of the, what you would say, mild side effects could be injury to the actual site of the vaccination, where the vaccination was put into the baby or the child's arm. Like you might have shoulder pain, or it might be skin inflammation. It can be dislocation, but you can get into more serious injuries like death, as far as injuries to the heart, where the body had a reaction to the chemicals in the actual vaccine. And they also have where the body might, as a reaction, because you're putting most of the time some of the disease into the child. So the throat might close up in the sense of the body's trying to protect itself. So children can die from suffocation. Children can die from heart failure. Children can die for a severe allergic reaction. Even some children can get chronic arthritis. You can also develop whatever disease or whatever bacteria they are putting into the system, into the body. They will say you can develop polio, paralytic polio if you get the polio vaccination. They have a whole list. It's about 4 or 5 pages long that you can read and see different types of injuries that can develop from the vaccination. They also tell you how long after vaccination a child or you might develop that injury. So that is the table that they use. So if you go get a vaccination today and the next day your child develops some type of heart failure issues, or you know that they're having trouble breathing, or they break out into eczema, or they're complaining about their bones being stiff, you have a certain amount of time between when you took the vaccination to when you develop the symptoms to be able to present a case and receive money compensation for it.
Right. So I have another question. It's actually two, but the first one I have is from the information that you're telling us and you're sharing with the listeners right now. How is it possible to protect one's child from harmful bacteria, viruses, disease without being vaccinated? How would a person who does the same vigilance as you, and their due diligence, and they're researching, their Google, and how would they begin to protect their child, in absence of having them vaccinated? Because that's a popular question that I know is going to come about.
Absolutely. I would definitely say this path is not for the lazy parents. It's not for the parents that don't want to research. It's not for the parents that are not ready to stand up and understand how viruses attack the immunity and the immune system of your children. If you are not ready to do that, this is not what you should do. And this is my opinion, and this is my advice to all parents. Because there are many days that I've stayed up countlessly, read many textbooks, did deep research online, have gone through different laws, have read the statutes in my state, the laws pertaining to my state as well. And so that I can protect my children, I frequently check the maps where they have maps where they put out where a breakout is happening. I try to avoid those areas. Thankfully, none have really happened close to me where I am in the South, but I do research. I research common bacteriums that are in my area and how to defend myself against it. So, in essence, the vaccination is supposed to help the child's immune system either become immune to the bacteria, or to be able to fight the bacteria they are presented at a time where they come in contact with it. So it all starts with immunity. You cannot have a crappy diet. You cannot be eating fast food. You cannot eat whatever you want to eat and think that you're going to have a healthy immunity. It all starts with immunity. It all starts with colon health. So I am very vigilant, as you say, with my children about detoxing. We are very vigilant about making sure that we're taking out probiotics. We're taking out our vitamins, our minerals. We're doing things like sea moss every day with my children. We don't take days off. If they do go somewhere, it is very easy for them, in a sense, if I let them go and they have a crappy diet, like this has happened with my son, and he went to Chuck E. Cheese, for example, he came back sneezing and coughing. You have to get on top of things like that. You cannot allow your children to show symptoms and don't do anything about it, right? So I am not a lazy parent. I am there with them all the the time. I'm making sure they're constantly washing their hands. I'm making sure that they have the tools that they need to provide a healthy immunity. It all starts with immunity and research. Okay, I do not allow them to travel without researching what's going on in that area as far as alerts that might have come up for a health crisis that's going on wherever we may be traveling. I'm very aware, very conscious of what's going on health-wise in our country. And that's how I combat it. Now, in the sense of they did contract a illness, all right? So if it's something that I cannot understand, so I learned how to understand the language of the body. For example, mucus, right? We all know about mucus, about the state. We brought that to the forefront, kind of. If your child is displaying, a fever, or they seem lethargic or something like that, you can tell by the mucus. So if the mucus is green, that will let me know they have an infection. If the mucus is clear, I know it's a viral infection, it's something that's going to pass over time. So I use all of these key components to help me to gauge what the severity of whatever bacterium they came in contact with. And then also I study different common illnesses or common colds or common bacterial infections that children come in contact with just by playing. I study these things. I study what it looks like once it manifests in the body. I do all of that so that I'm aware and have as much information as possible. Just like a doctor would go to school and learn about different bacterial infections and learn about viral diseases, I do the same thing, but I just don't go to an institution to learn. I do it on my own. I go by the books. I go to the library, check out the books, and I read the same books that they're reading. All right. Now, in the essence of that, I feel that my child is severe danger. I have not come in contact with that. I will take them to the hospital, but I know my rights as well. Okay, I would not allow, I would definitely want them to tell me first. I don't let them just say, okay, this is what we think it is. They have to provide information to me. They need to provide information on why you think this is what's wrong with my child. I have not had an incident where I had to take them to the hospital for anything as of now.
Orisha, I you know what? I just want to commend you for, one, being such a consistent follower and a strong parent, because I think this is, at least personal opinion, I feel this is where we were a long time ago, in just our natural paths. And then it seems as though, and this is no knock on technology or anything, it's just we developed a lot, and then as human nature, we can become lazy. We can become lazy if we're not really paying attention. So I just wanted to thank you because you touched on something which was the key point. You just tongue-tied, which is you can't be a lazy parent, and that's the key word. What is some of the information that people can contact you? Where can they find you? Where can they email you to if they want to ask you more questions, if they want to reach out, if they want to ask you questions about where to start researching? Where can individuals find you?
Right. So email, I do help parents that are concerned with, the ingredients in the vaccination, sometimes to go against their religious beliefs. So I help people based on the laws in their state with how to navigate if they're still interested in putting their children in the public system, school system. So I've helped many parents with going through that process, and they've emailed me. That's mostly how I communicate with people. It is Orisha, Orisha, Oshun, Oshun, at survivingvegan.online. And my Instagram, if you want to just follow me and keep up with what I'm doing day to day, is at I Am Surviving Vegan. And those are pretty much the best ways to reach me. I also have a detox club that I run monthly. And again, because I am not a licensed physician, because of the strict laws of the country, I do have to say that no information I give is meant to replace that of a licensed physician. It is all my suggestions, my advice to you from my own research and what I've been through personally. But I do have a detox group that I help women, men. It's more focused on weight loss and more focused on those looking to find alternative remedies for medication. And we have detoxes on weight loss, organ health, blood cleansing, as well as different herbal remedies. We've helped women who have fibroid, which is something that's plaguing our community as well, We have a remedy that we've created, myself along with another certified herbalist, for shrinking fibroids in 90 days. And that's just something that's what we're working on. I'm looking to, in the future, so I definitely want people to follow me. I'm looking to developing my own labs and working on that constantly. And it's not something I'm trying to keep in the woodworks or keep a secret. I'm not that type of person. I want people to be involved, because the more I know about what you're experiencing, your child is experiencing, the better I am able to create something that is community-based to help us get unbiased research, in my opinion, on how food is affecting our body, as well as bacterial infections and things of that nature.
Orisha, we thank you so much for joining us here at the Daily Fit Podcast, and we appreciate all of your information. Your energy is all positive, and we thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite. It's a glorious experience.
Hey, you, with the earbuds in their ear. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? When I was trying to get my podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other places people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you can get paid to podcast. I like to upload my episodes directly to the app and then promote. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast, make money doing it. Go to anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast.
You're now tuned in to the De La Fit Podcast.
Welcome back to the De La Fit Podcast, everyone. I am so excited about this particular guest. So this is a different episode. This is a different form of how we normally do this podcast. Typically, I would have it's a little bit more jovial, but because I feel that this particular subject is very serious, we're going to take it with that in frame of mind. So we already talked to holistic counselor Orisha Oshun, and she gave us a viewpoints and information about what to do if you are not going to vaccinate your child. Things that you should consider, information that you should research, all of the necessary tools and information and opinions that she feels that goes into not vaccinating your child. I am lucky right now to have adolescent medical physician from out of the Las Vegas area, Dr. Cass. She's on the line, and she's going to be talking about what to expect, or some of the things of what to expect when you do vaccinate a child, why you should, all right, and a little bit more information. Dr. Cass, are you on the line?
I am.
How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me. I am doing excellent.
We're so glad to have you here. First things first, we're going to try to get through this as quickly as possible. I know it's the Memorial Day weekend. We're all celebrating. Barbecues are being held everywhere. I've got people calling me like, hey, man, you ain't come out yet? What you doing? What you doing? What you doing? So I know what's going on. We're going to try to get you through this so you spend time with your family. But we are so thankful to have you here on the De La Fit Podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here and glad to answer any questions that you may have.
So, first things first, Dr. Cass, just give us a little bit of background information about yourself. Like, how long you've been practicing medicine, some of your experiences with vaccinations and working with children.
So I have been practicing medicine since 2008. I started as a general pediatrician and then went back to do fellowship, and now I am adolescent medicine physician. So I only see teenagers now. So I have a little bit of a different perspective on vaccines because as a teenager, you get fewer vaccines than you do when you're younger. But I've obviously been a general pediatrician before and have dealt with younger kids and having to maneuver around those who may or may not want to do vaccines and how to have that discussion with them. So that's kind of the background I come from.
Okay. So let's ask you first and foremost, why do you think it's better for a child or teen to be vaccinated?
So, there's going to be lots of exposures that we have across our lifetime, and I think there's many benefits to vaccinating, including not only protecting yourself, but protecting others. When the majority of us are vaccinated, there is such a thing as herd immunity, and therefore we provide the immunity for everyone else also around us. So it does benefit other people and not just ourselves. And I think when we're talking about health and medicine, we shouldn't just be talking about ourselves, but we should also be talking about the society in general. And so I think that's one important factor. Another important factor is you never know what you're going to be exposed to. Whether you're going to be going out of the country, whether you're going to be, seeing different people, or having exposures from other, countries. Like, it's important to be vaccinated against diseases that obviously can cause very detrimental things to young, especially for young children.
Right. So, let me ask you this: is it possible to protect one's child from harmful bacteria, viruses, and such without being vaccinated?
So that's the thing, no matter what we do, there's always going to be a lot of viruses, a lot of bacteria that we're never going to be able to protect our kids against. Well, the fortunate thing is the most common ones that cause a lot of negative outcomes, such as, brain death or, developmental delay or, other factors. Those are the ones that we are really trying to protect ourselves against, and that's why we have these certain vaccines out there. But we're never going to be able to 100% protect our kids from these exposures. So that's the thing. You still have to do your hand washing. You still have to, protect yourself against, viruses coming into your nostrils. If you have allergies, taking your allergy medicine so that you're protecting yourself so that viruses don't have the exposure to your, like your mucous membranes, basically your nostrils, your mouth, all that stuff. But when you're protecting yourself doing either your medicines or, your holistic approach, whatever that may be, you're going to have less access to these viruses coming in. And unfortunately, vaccines don't do that 100%, but they're better than nothing. And the outcomes that we have don't improve are much more negative.
Okay. So, I'm going to ask you this. In the basic conversation that we're always hearing out there, and I think what shakes or worries a lot of parents is, are vaccines safe? We've heard a lot of information. We've hear a lot about the ingredients that some of the vaccines have. Are they safe?
Yes, they're 100% safe. Unfortunately, we are all individuals. Our makeup is going to be different. Our genetics are going to be different. So are there side effects? Yes, but for everything that we do, whether it's that burger you ate from McDonald's or it's that, French fry you had from Burger King, we all are going to have exposure that we're not sure if we're going to have a reaction to. So I can 100% say that I believe, vaccines are safe, but at the same time, I can't change your makeup, your genetics, all of that stuff that may impact how you react to a vaccine.
Well, what are some of the adverse reactions that can happen to a child when they're vaccinated? Just for some of the individuals out there who might be, you said something about the fact that there could be. So what are some of those adverse reactions?
So, you're going to have your most common ones where, after you get a vaccine, you may get a rash, or you might get what we call a little irritation around the vaccine site. Obviously, there's can sometimes be pain associated. There is one vaccine that there has been adverse events of fainting. It's not a side effect. It's just most of the time it happens in people who already have a predisposing factor that leads to the fainting, but it does happen. Mm-hmm. So
we always have to point that out, and we always let, your pediatrician or your physician should always be telling you these are the possible side effects. This is what you want to watch out to. You can have fevers after having vaccines. There are little things, but I think those things are minute compared to the outcomes when you don't have a vaccine or you don't get vaccinated, and especially now that there's a lot of diseases coming back versus we thought we, quote unquote, eradicated them, but we see them pop back up, whether it's measles mumps or, measles, or whether it's pertussis, those things started coming back up, and we're learning a little bit more like how the immunity works and what might be beneficial for, us as a society as we move forward thinking about vaccines and when we're giving them and how we're giving them. So.
Well, I'm a little curious. Why are some of those diseases seem to come back? And because I know I've been paying attention to, especially earlier in the year, they were talking about new strands of the flu and other diseases, and like you said prior, diseases and viruses that have been somewhat thought of as eradicated. Why are they coming back stronger?
So I wouldn't say stronger. They're just coming back. At the end of the day, there are going to be people who don't vaccinate. So no matter what we do, they're going to have exposures, whether it's to go to another country and come back, or someone visited them. We can't ever change that. So with those exposures is going to come sometimes, disease is going to sometimes come, new viruses. And, the flu is seasonal. So it's all about what is being put into the environment at that point in time. That's why a vaccine is made based on the year before. Unfortunately, we can only take what we have the exposure to, what we see, what we notice is happening with everybody the year before, and we try to create the vaccine based off of that. So unfortunately, the flu vaccine, it's not 100%, it's not perfect. I still advise people to get it because we can never account for every single strain of any type of virus. So we do our best to account for what we have seen and what's most common, and that's how we deliver the flu vaccine. So nothing is perfect, and I always try to tell people nothing is going to be perfect, but for the most part, if you are vaccinated, the likelihood of you getting that illness drops significantly. And I think that's better than nothing.
Do the vaccines have any unintended negative long-term effects in your experience? Have you ever ran into that, or is that something also that is a constant occurrence, something that parents should be worried about?
I have not, and it's not something I, teach my parents to be worried about. We never know how long immunity lasts, right? So That's where it came up with needing a booster for the Tdap, which included the pertussis. Once there was pertussis being a little bit more rampant, everybody was like, we need that booster. So now we get a booster every 10 years. So I think it's just, we're not perfect in medicine, and we do our best to, create vaccines and develop things that are going to protect us from really bad adverse effects, if not death, and, consequences such as, developmental delay or other aspects, whether it's affecting our mind or our body. So we sit there and we tell you that, it's important to get vaccinated, and we do our best to explain it to you. Mm-hmm. Everybody has to make that decision for themselves. But I will say, I don't have kids now, but if I did, they would be vaccinated. And all my godkids, 100% are vaccinated. And it's a discussion I have, all the time with parents. And I give up my whys, because I truly believe that vaccines are not there to hurt us. They're there to benefit us. And if they only benefit us for 10 years, that's 10 great years that we had versus 0, Mm-hmm. And we just don't know what the impact will be. If we have to get revaccinated in 10 years, is it really that bad? I don't think so.
Right. What should a parent do if by chance, all right, just if by chance their child has had an adverse reaction or develops a new health symptom with in a certain amount of time? What should they do?
So I always advise parents you should come back and see your doctor. The reason why you do that is because there is a system in place that your doctor would report it. Your doctor will put it into the records. It goes into the system. They go through like whatever vial or that your kid would have had, and just check in on the rest of the people who may have had it from that same product. See if there's anything else that's popping up, or is this outside the realm of what might be a typical adverse event, and then you deal with it. You make that decision. You sit down with your doctor and you say, you know what, I'm not sure about this vaccine. This is kind of how I felt what it did to my, to my kid, or this is the event or adverse effect that my kid had. Where do we go from here? So
right.
I think those are the discussions you should be having, and you still have to make that decision for yourself. I can sit there and convince you all the way through and tell you why, this vaccine didn't cause this, or I can say, and nothing's 100%, but I can say all of that, and at the end of the day, you have to make that decision as a parent,
Right.
And I think it's okay to make the other decision, but be prepared for what that may entail.
Right. Now, another quick question is, how long should a parent monitor their child after getting a vaccination to make sure that they're adapting to it correctly?
First and foremost, I would say the first 24 to 48 hours are going to be the key effect, and then up to, a week to 2 weeks later. So I tell people, if you don't really have any effects or anything that happens within the first 24 to 48 hours, the vaccine probably is not going to cause any problems. There are some effects that may show up maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks later, but in reality, those are probably going to be minimal compared to what you're going to see in the first 24 to 48 hours.
Okay. So now I have to ask you this. I definitely have to ask you this, because this is something that I know many of us have heard. I've spoken about with many different associates, friends, and parents. And is there truth to the claim that vaccines can cause autism? No,
there is not.
Right. Okay. So how should we take it? Where does that come from?
There's, people are going to put things out on the internet. There's going to be always some association people are going to make, because no one wants to believe their kid is having autistic features, or no one wants to believe their kid isn't able to communicate with them the way that they would like their kid to communicate with them. And I'm not putting that on the parent at all, because there's lots of people out there that put that claim out there, but there's been no study to show that the association between vaccines and autism.
Right. I just had to ask that question because, part of what we do here is we're trying to make sure that people are getting the right information to make the right decisions. So I just wanted to put that out there and to ask. So
yeah, definitely.
Finally, there's two more questions for you. One is, what should parents know and understand about vaccinations, their rights? What are the rights that they should actually know when it comes to vaccination in their city, state, or what have you? How should they begin to research it?
I definitely think you should start with your school. Some schools are very adamant about your kid must be vaccinated to attend. Some schools are not that adamant about it, and they just require you to fill out a form saying that you're not vaccinating your kids, and that's how they take it. I think you should get information from the Center of Disease, CDC. Sorry, I can't even think of the name right now. But
no, you're right. The CDC.
You should get information there. You should talk to your doctor. Your doctor always has vaccine information sheets. They should be able to provide that for you, to give you all of the adverse effects. They should be able to talk through, the really serious events and those that may or may not happen just from getting a vaccine. So there's a wide array of things that you can do. And I think, research is good. Google should not be your best friend. There's lots of other bad resources out there, but where you want to go is like the CDC, or talk to your doctor who can provide you with information sheets. And you want to have the discussions. A lot of parents just oftentimes will go in and they'll just say, okay, what vaccine can my kid have? or need, and let me just get those for them. But in reality, you should always be having that discussion with your doctor. You should be talking through, like, why do they need these vaccines, or what is it that we're giving to them, besides just, okay, they need this for school, but why? Knowing what your kid is being covered for is important.
Dr. Cass, we thank you for your time. We know you're a very busy individual, but I'd like to extend my thanks to you of coming on to the show and giving your information, and also the extent that you've taken your education, your time to learning about these things. We thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Hopefully if anything that people have questions about, if you live in the Las Vegas area and you need a physician, please come see me or my office. You can look me up. I'm pretty easy to find.
Well, I was about to say, where can people contact you or find you if they wanted to ask you information, or are you set up for that at this time to do that?
Yeah, definitely. So I work with the UNLV School of Medicine. You can look me up through there. If you live in the Las Vegas area, I also have a website. It's called drcassmd.com. If you want to come drop me a message there, ask some questions. I don't give complete medical advice, but I can deliver you to the person who can help you in your area. There's lots of great adolescent medicine physicians around the country, so I'd love to connect you if you need one.
Dr. Cass, thank you for all your time. All right, we're going to let you go.
All right, thank you for having me. You guys have a great day.
It's time for another podcast excursion. Join us. We are the Della Fit Podcast.
So I just want to take the time out to thank both of our guests, holistic counselor Orisha Oshun and Dr. Cass, for taking the time out of their busy schedules to come and talk with us here at the podcast. These are two young, intelligent, bright women who have taken the time to educate themselves and dedicate their lives to the knowledge of the human body and helping humanity. So we thank you both so much. You are worthy of applause and kudos for everything that you've done for us here today. So I said that I was going to weigh in on my opinion of vaccinations after the podcast and talking to both our guests. I'm still going to do that, but I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that Dr. Cass and Orisha spoke on. One is something that Orisha said that I thought spoke volumes, and it was the statement that she made, which was, you cannot be a lazy parent. That was such a pivotal thing to say. And ironically, I think it was interesting that Dr. Cass, in her own way, said the same thing, which is basically make yourself aware. Despite them having difference of opinion, and we're all allowed that. The thing of it is that I found that was so amazing and profound is the fact that even within this conversation, no matter whether you agree to vaccinate your child or not agree to vaccinate your child, the thing of it is that 100% you cannot be a lazy parent. If you decide to vaccinate your child, does not mean that you are going to be 100% protected. It just doesn't work that way. Dr. Cass said it best. We're all individuals, and our bodies work differently, and that's just the point of life. And even Orisha said that in her own way. The thing of it is that we have to be vigilant. I am not a parent. I don't pretend to be. I was blessed to be raised by two very, 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 very good parents who made sure that they monitored everything. And I do mean everything that they could monitor. I remember my father taking the time out to make sure that we had distilled water. We were not allowed to drink tap water because of all of the impurities that were believed to be in the water. And my father distilled the water and put minerals back into the water, him and my mother, and this is in the early 80s when people thought you were strange if you ate vegetables and didn't have a slice of chicken or anything like that. Okay, I'm saying that to say that vigilance is key, and we must be vigilant when it comes to our children. And that's just the 100% stark naked truth. Whether you vaccinate or you're not vaccinating, you have to make sure that your children are in the best possible atmosphere that they can be, eating the best foods, drinking the best water, living the best life that they can. And it seems as though it's an easy thing to say and that everybody should be like, oh yeah, well that's just, that goes without saying, but it needs to be said. I feel that in the Western world that we live in today, we feel that, there's an app for everything. And they're getting close to it, but the thing of it is that there's no app for parenting, for good parenting. And when I say there's no app for good parenting, I mean that there is no excuse for a vigilant parent. You cannot change that. You cannot shake it. There's nothing that compares to a vigilant parent. A parent that cares, a parent that's really paying attention. What are you eating? What do you put in your mouth? Who's at school? What are they saying to you? What did your teacher do? And for us growing up under that, it's difficult for a child, but I will say this. The thing of it is that no matter what, it is that degree of vigilance that helps to form fully developed and healthy children. Now, there's a balance to that. That goes without saying. But again, whether you choose to vaccinate your child, whether you choose not to, the thing of it is that I also find so amazing is the fact that even if you do vaccinate your child it's not 100%. So whether you vaccinate your child, whether you don't, of course, they're saying that the odds are that if you vaccinate, it's a possibility that they won't. But again, as Dr. Cass said, the thing of it is we're all individuals. So this is what I'll say. With all the information that was shared today, take that information and do what both of these intelligent, young, bright professionals have said. Research, talk to the people that know, make yourself educated. Open up your mind and do what's necessary to protect your children. If you choose not to vaccinate, that means that you must be very aware of everything that is going on around your child. Not an easy thing to do. If you choose to vaccinate your child, you must be very, very aware of what is going on around your child. See, I think, again, we live in this world, we would feel that if we do this instead of that, it'll be much easier. There is no easy. So the decision still lies with you. Now, my feelings about vaccinations is that vaccinations are old. They're as old as human beings walking this earth. We have always done things to make sure that we were protected against certain types of bacteria, viruses. That's where herbs and minerals and all these other things that we now come to talk about with such common verbiage come from. Elixirs and all these other things. Those were our vaccines at the time. Now, do I feel that we live in a world that is trying to take more of a fast food mentality? Yes, I do. Do I agree with all the ingredients that are in a lot of the vaccines? No, I do not. But again, that's my opinion and that's what I believe. You, the parents out there, are going to have to make your own educated decision on what you want your child to ingest. What do you want inside of your child's body? All the knowledge and all the tools are out there. I say to you, take the time, educate yourself, and talk to the people that are out here and who are willing and putting in the work to help you make an educated decision. But again, it all comes down to one thing: you, the parent, making the decision. As always, this is Each One Teach One. It takes a village to raise a child. We always say this. We're all somebody's child. That means we all should be helping each other. We are all family, and we should all be looking forward to helping one another. And that's what we're here for. Thank you so much for tuning into the De La Fit podcast. I wish you nothing but love for yourself, love for others, and a happy day. Peace.
You've been listening to the DelaFit podcast. Ta-ta for now.